Alright. So, I've never played against this deck before, which is certainly interesting. I think that it probably brings in some pretty mean cards that I don't want to see. So I'm bringing in the Thought Seizes to combat that. Also, against these kind of resilient creatures, it can't really be bad to have a bunch of Thought Seizes. And that way I'm not getting hit by Stony Silence, hopefully, Creeping Corrosion, and so on. I need to leave in everything that's good against Stony Silence, which is Ensoul Artifact in particular. And there is a price. I need to cut some cards, and it might be Steel Overseer. On the other hand, that card is just really, really good if my opponent doesn't have the answer for it. So could also take out Thoughtcast just to not have too many colored spells in my deck. Well, it's definitely an option. Don't like Spell Pierce, I think. So the real question is if I would rather not have Memnite and lose some of my explosive draws, or not have Thoughtcast for the late game. And I think then I just have to cut the Thoughtcast. That way my game one, my being on the draw is better. Okay, I'm back. So this is a great example of why Memnite is a good card to keep in. If I draw the Memnite, I can thought these on turn 1, but I cannot afford to lose Glimmervoid to it. So yeah, if I don't draw a 0-drop here, I'm not going to throw away my Thoughtseize like that. Also, I'm not playing the Citadel. It would protect my Glimmervoid, but it's also the card that doesn't cast anything if my opponent has a Stony Silence after boarding here. And then, of course, it's getting difficult, but at least I get to Signal Pass Vault Scourge and hopefully win in the air, maybe. Please mainline, interesting. There's the Mox Opal, a bit too late, but still a great draw. So, because my opponent is reaching 4 mana, I definitely need to Thoughtseize ASAP. I have 3 mana, so it's probably going to be Signal Pass Vault Scourge Mox Opal plus Thoughtseize, and then the Cranial Plating only for next turn. I don't even need the Glimmervoid here, and now drawing Ensoul Artifact is relevant, so I want the Citadel in play for multiple reasons. Just no sideboard cards against Affinity. Path is the best card against me, so I'm going to take it, but I'm really surprised about the lack of power in my opponent's hand. Like, my opponent's hand is definitely good. Like 1-drop Accelerator into 2-drop, Manland, more stuff that your deck kind of wants to be doing, but the Pilgrim makes only white mana, which is kind of awkward with the Strangleroot Rancor. And like random green-white creatures are never going to raise Affinity. There's just no world where that works out. So now my opponent doesn't have the Path anymore. Is once again forced to tap out for pressure, but if he does that, I get to equip Plating onto one of my Vault Scourges. Files and folders. It's actually just magic cards. It's actually just magic cards. And to be honest, I think I'm playing one of the best decks in the format, especially with this version. So Cranial Plating gives +6, but if the Nexi are animated, it's even more. I think I'm even threatening a poison kill here, maybe with the help of Mox Opal instant equip. Yeah, if my opponent has a Path, then might be close. No, this is round 3 of the daily. Can So my opponent is just dead on board. Oh, I messed that up. Not that it matters, kitchen things don't fly. So, can we see our list? Yes, of course. That's not my list. This is it in all its glory. That doesn't work again. Display pile view, sort by converted mana cost. So this is the main deck, very, very straightforward. 16 land, 1 basic build. Full Memnite suite. And only the best 2 mana cards, in my opinion. So I love Thoughtcast. I think it's one of the most important tools to beat the mirror and the more grindier matchups, especially after boarding. And I just want to try out a version that doesn't overdo it with regards to playing too many colored spells. So I have 8, but also 11 5-color sources and the island. So especially in the matchups where the opponent paths your creatures, which is a very good card against Affinity, you will be guaranteed to be able to cast every single one of your spells. And by not including any other basic lands, you you don't have these awkward draws where you draw a mountain or something like that. Against Twin, my deck is pretty soft. Like, I just hope that my game 1 game plan is better than theirs. It's pretty much a race, and one that I can often win, especially as Twin versions are going for less combo these days. And I have the 2 dismembers are kind of serve the Galvanic Blast role, I have 2 spell scatter and a spell pierce, so I can definitely do something against Twin. And if they are the more grindier version, then I also have Relic. Yeah, Twin is not being played all that much these days, which is good. But I honestly, even with this version, or with the I used to play the version with a single Galvanic Blast, I wasn't having that much trouble actually. Like, of course there are also a lot of people who don't play Twin all that well, and then there are some that played absolutely masterfully. So I like my chances in the mirror with this list. I actually think that Control and Jund and Junk are pretty good. Like, they don't get much better with other affinity lists, I think. And then there is like Blue, White, Red Control, where the sideboarding helps a lot. Like, with 4 Thoughtseize, a Spell Pierce, and the 4 Ensoul artifacts, you can actually beat a lot of their draws. It's surprising how resilient the deck has become with Ensoul Artifact, which is also why I'm just running 4 of them. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, guys, you can't see the board. I need to resize the whole window for this to work. So, let's see. You would think that that's possible, but it looks like I don't have a way to do this. That's really weird. Alright, next try. Yeah, I somehow can't make the window bigger. I think my Magic Online is pretty much crashing, but now you've seen the board, so I might be forced to restart here at some point. These windows are just not reacting anymore. Let's see. Yeah, do you see this? This is what I was talking about with regards to stability. I'm currently streaming, and I'll look at my task manager. Like, 4 of my 8 gig of RAM are being used. And somehow I think that this just does something to Magic Online. Like, the CPU usage is fine. I mean, streaming costs some CPU, but I have a quad core, so I would love to know what's actually happening. Like, why is it happening, and what I can do against it. But I just haven't found out a way to do it. So yeah, these kind of crashes are just make it really difficult to enjoy playing and streaming. I haven't had that much issues when recording content, but that's actually the worst if you record content and then you lose your stuff due to these kind of things. Okay, where do I hide this? All right, so let's see. Ikshenbok asked me to expand the sideboard, and that crashed Magic Online, so thank you for that. Slash47 asks, don't you get extremely bummed out by cards like Stony Silence? You can get hated out, but I think this is probably the time to play Affinity, if there ever was one. There aren't too many Stony Silences around. You can easily support 4 Thoughtseize, and Ensoul Artifact gives you a great backup plan against it. MTGO, I think, is 64-bit. I'm not an expert on these kind of memory leak issues. Slash Ensoul is sweet tech against SS. Okay, yeah, that's what I just said. And it's actually Maren the Bear is my password. So now we have this issue again where I kind of want to double queue, but we've seen that this doesn't really work out. I'll put my Nissa here next to the other Nissa. And yeah, I've talked about Splinter Twin. I think it works surprisingly well, but that's also because the Splinter Twin opponents will usually not really be in combo mode for games 2 and 3, and you can often take advantage of that. So, I don't know. I mean, Affinity is just an incredible deck for online play, and I'm not sure if it's the best deck to win a modern PDQ. I lost to something that was a Blue Moon deck with a bunch of removal. Like, after boarding, it was Ophelia's account. After boarding, it just had too many Electrolyzers, Ancient Grudges, Flame Slashes. So, yeah, Vidalton Shackles. I wasn't Engrim Lavamancer, so that just kind of crushed me in 2 games. So I actually won a second show and tell with a legacy deck, and the story is quite funny. I had this deck on my account but not completed. I just basically had this in my legacy folder for, I don't know, half a year, and that's because I like the deck, but I don't play Legacy, so I just had the deck. That was it. So at some point, there is the Mox Championships, which are Legacy, and I have 15 qualifier points, and I thought I had missed all the chances to play the preliminaries. As it turned out, I hadn't, and my chance was there. At 9:25, I realized that at 9:30 there would be a legacy event. So I loaded this deck, and I realized I'm missing Vials, I'm missing Lords, I'm missing a bunch of cards. So I had 3 minutes to buy the remaining cards, and then I joined the Legacy Mox preliminaries with this deck, and I managed to 4-2, which was awesome, because it gave me another promo show and tell. Okay, Tendrils of Agony is not the card that I wanted to draw, I'll be honest. Tezzeret the Seeker, I can probably not beat that, but it's a few turns off. I don't think I can Doomsday without lands. It seems ambitious. Natural Time Vault is bad news. Natural Force is good news, I think. And because of the lack of lands, I probably need to pitch Misdirection, which doesn't seem incredible anyway. And then I need to draw a land and somehow go off. So I can Lotus, Doomsday, Ponder, but I don't think that gives me anything resembling a win. I think I need to Ponder first. Yeah, I'm awful at these kind of piles. So if I can also just Doomsday and hope to get there, basically. It's also legitimate. But then it doesn't really hurt to Ponder first. I can always put Ancestral first and try to win that way. Yeah, I'm going to ponder first. Interesting. Gush is kind of awkward. I mean, if I naturally draw the Ancestral and I Ancestor into a land, I can also Gush. I'm just really dead if my opponent has anything. But I'm not prepared well enough to actually solve this. Shuffle? Yeah, maybe shuffling is better. So what's the last card? I'm not sure. Maybe just more mana. Maybe the will. I don't think the will is good in this spot. I mean, if the Ancestor doesn't resolve, I'm just losing. I don't know. It might be that the will does something, but I don't think it does. Could also Time Walk. That's actually interesting. So Time Walk on top. Sure. Wait, that's actually dangerous, right? No. I don't know. It doesn't accomplish anything. It seems really bad. So now I have to hope that the Ancestor resolves. And if that's the case, then I'm fine. And so the last card just doesn't matter, I think. No, I haven't said that. I drafted and I lost, and it was because I double queued and played badly. So that was not a very pleasant experience. Also, I'm definitely waiting till this Modern Daily is over until I do any more queuing. Oh, interesting. My opponent discards the Tendrils. That's very funny. Let's see if this resolves. I mean, I can't blame him, but the Gush was kind of more important. I mean, if he forces here, I'm clearly dead. Haha. Don't think I should have won that. Not against this card. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense to take the Tendrils because it looks like I'm setting up the Stormkill somehow. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely convinced, but it was a fun spot. It's also 9:30 already. I think I'm just finishing the daily and then that's it. Also, I heard that there's some other good streamers on, so also Vintage Super League should start at some point. Simon says no. Alright, I'm keeping this. Doesn't it really do anything? But I have counter backup starting turn 2, and I can tutor for anything I want. Which kind of has to be good enough. Oh, it's actually not. You can storm off easily if you have a will in your in your pile. I'm just going to Flusterstorm. My counter defenses are pretty weak. What I'm not sure about is how to play these kind of all these tutors. Like, I kind of want to just get Ancestor because I have the will already. I think that's what I'm going to do here. It's not super likely that it resolves, but I haven't really given this much thought, but I would say that Vintage is a great competitive format. It's just not suitable for real-life Magic because of the card availability issues. You don't want to have a mental sport where the equipment to play is just not available to everyone. I'm playing this a bit more recklessly than I probably should. But what can you do? Like, I'm just exposing myself here and I don't really need to. That was kind of awkward. I wanted that will. I needed that will. But at least Gush works either way, so that's something, I guess. Wow. I can always fetch the Maniac with Doomsday, so that's not a concern. And who knows, Vintage games have been decided with less. I should probably play around Flusterstorm. That's very unfortunate. I guess I get to scry, so I don't know if I can actually beat the Notion Thief. I think Doomsday kind of relies on being able to draw extra cards. I'm also not winning the race, but I can at least draw into tendrils, which my opponent can't, so. Yeah, Notion Thief is really good against this deck also. Like, it's one of the best cards to resolve against this deck. And it's also one of the cards that's most difficult to counter. It's a race to the death. And the reason I'm attacking is I want to draw Chandrils of Agony. Like, I don't have great chances to win here, but I think that's the best shot I have. I'm not gonna stream on schedule, no. I'm far too busy. I would love to, but this is not the time. So, the Mean Notion Thief. I think I just accept that it's a good card against me. There's no reason to bring in cards like this that don't do anything serious. Not an incredible hand, but also not horrible. I think I'm just preparing to Nature's Claim if that should become relevant. Whoa. It's not good news. The question is if I just Nature's Claim the Soaring here, hoping that my opponent is severely hindered. Otherwise, I mean, there's Jace and Tezzeret potentially coming down. I think I have to do that. It's not like the Nature's Claim is doing much on my side here. This looks a lot safer. So what I really like about the fact that I can play Vintage on Magic Online is that I kind of get to figure out all these things by myself. I play a lot of Magic, but I've never played Vintage. So I just need to learn a whole new format with rules so different from the limited I play all the time, and also from standard or modern, that I really enjoy the challenge. Even though I know that I'm far from a good player. Like, yeah, I'm not. Who am I kidding, right? So the problem with Jace is that Flusterstorm doesn't counter it, and I'm very unlikely to draw into a force with by gushing here. I think I'm losing this game. The start from my opponent was a bit more potent than what I'm currently doing, so yeah, forcing Ancestral there might have been wrong. I saw that my opponent was down to 2 cards. I'm not sure in this spot. I think I thought I was in a bad spot already from the quick mana deployment that my opponent had and the pretty weak hand that I had. So I thought that forcing would give me the best shot at delaying the game sufficiently to actually get there. Now, I forced the Ancestral. My opponent has still had Jace, Tezzeret, Notion Thief pretty much in arbitrary order, and I'm clearly not winning. But if I don't counter the Ancestral, then my opponent is just very likely to have at least one of these. And I need to draw out of this, which I thought it was just not going to happen. Oh, perfect. Perfect, perfect. Alright, one more round, and then I'm done for the day. After throwing away the draft, I think it would be nice to win this round. And I like my deck, as I've said previously. So let's get the info screen up. Like this. And I'm on the draw again, but my hand is superb. I'm keeping. Is it burn? It's always burn. I don't have a Vault Scourge yet, that would be optimal. Another Ravager, alright. The foil Ravager even, so I have to play it before the others. Before the other one. My hand isn't great against burn, but overall my matchup against burn feels pretty good. I might lose this if my opponent has too many Searing Blazes here. Then it's difficult. And the fact that I don't have a Vault Scourge really hurts. If I could Vault Scourge, Ensoul Artifact the Vault Scourge is pretty much the best you can do. It's also interesting once Eidolon comes down, the dynamic changes again. But it is actually not always, like, it's not clearly not in my favor if an Eidolon comes down, which is interesting. So, in theory, I could already Ensoul Artifact here, but getting down a Ravager is more important. And that will be very quickly stopping the beatdown by my opponent. Well, maybe not very quickly, but sufficiently quickly. Interesting. Another guy doesn't really do much on this board. Like, if my opponent attacks now after showing his hand, pretty much, I just have a perfect block. Yeah, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. Because now I get two triggers. Like, I could have hit some pretty nice cards here. And the second guide doesn't make the attack better, I think. I think it actually makes it worse, so yeah, don't agree with that. So this is a good exchange for me, but I'm still under a lot of pressure, and my next draw step is crap again. A land from one of these guides would have been a lot better. I think I have to Ravager. Like, Ensoul Artifact could be good, actually. If I put this on the Ravager, I have an 8/8. What's my opponent going to do about an 8/8? Not much. Probably forced to chump block, to be honest. And I'm not dying on 13 life. That's just not going to happen. The interesting thing here is that it might be correct to attack with the Mem Knight as well. So in the worst case, my opponent has 9 damage from Rift Bolt plus 2 1-mana cards. Like, in theory, there could be, like, another one, but that's, like, really unlikely. If this attacks for 8, my opponent is on 11. But I have 3 artifacts to deal the additional points. So I can keep the Mem Knight around, which is good. So I can play this a bit more defensively by holding back Mem Knight. Hey Frank, nice to see you in my chat. I'm 2-1 in this daily, and I'm hoping to win this matchup against Burn to finish ahead. So I expect Rift Bolt targeting me. I expect all Burn spells to target me, honestly. And I will hopefully force the Goblin Kite to chump block. Yeah, worst case, he could have had lethal, which I wanted to prevent. So, because the Ensoul artifact, of course, doesn't mean I get to transfer more than 3 counters from this Ravager. So the total number of counters I have with this draw is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means I can deal 8 damage with Mem Knight, but that's not lethal. So my opponent is very likely to kill me here. I don't see a way around that. I mean, my opponent could just draw. Could just draw a creature or a land and not be able to kill me, but land might also mean that there's a 4-mana spell killing me, so... I didn't see a line here that would have guaranteed the victory. I'll count again once my opponent blocks, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's only 8 damage, so my opponent would go to 3, which doesn't make a difference, so... And had I sacrificed Mem Knight last turn, it wouldn't have been better, so... Alright, this is awesome for me. This is great. Step 1. No. And we might be doing it. Cranial plating is generally better than sacrificing. Cranial plating is generally better than sacrificing artifacts, but in this particular spot, when you're attacking for the win, it might not actually deal extra damage. So, for example, if I equip the Arcbound Ravager, which is the one creature that's safe from burn, then if I put the plating on there and I sacrifice all these kind of creatures, it's not going to make a big difference if it's in play or not. Like, yeah, because I potentially sacrifice so many artifacts. On the other hand, activating the Nexus and attacking, well, that's worth 2 points rather than 1. I'm pretty sure I just have 10 points of damage either way, so I'm just going to play it like this. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's the 3 counters from this, and I have a couple of artifacts to make things work out. It's just not necessary to play it. That's the only reason. don't have many sideboard cards against burn. I kind of like the whip flares, I think. I also sometimes want to bring in Relic or Cage, but it's always unclear to me if they play Hellspark Elemental or Lavamancer these days. And if they aren't, well, then it's just not as good as it could be. I like the Whip Flares, I think. That way I already have some Lavamancer protection. And I will leave the other cards out there. And all I want to do in this matchup is really to put on enough pressure that my opponent is forced to kill my creatures. It's kind of the whole game plan. And if I manage to do that, it's awesome. If I don't, then I'm losing. It's really that simple. Also, if my opponent has too many sideboard cards. Depends on their budget. Claudia's not here, which is actually why I'm streaming, so you can have your pick. No Goblin Guide, please. Riftbolt. There's a Spells Guide, so I really want to get that Vault Scourge down, and if my opponent Riftbolts it, I mean, if my opponent wants to kill my Vault Scourge sooner or later, I'm not going to prevent it. It's just not something that I can prevent. And actually by threatening, what's it called? By threatening Ensoul Artifact here with a blue source, it's oftentimes correct to kill the Vault Scourge. Oh, my opponent might have a version with Destructive Revelry, which is also quite good. Interesting. So Glimmervoid is nice, but if I drop Vault Scourge and Glimmervoid, I'm losing the Glimmervoid to a removal spell. With this kind of hand, I'm happy enough to just cast the Spells Guide first and delay the Vault Scourge by a turn. I'm also a bit safer against Goblin Guide that way. And I'll stay on a relatively high life total. I actually think that that Burn is one of the other best decks in Modern. It's doing so well in the daily events, and yeah, it's just incredible now with Eidolon of the Great Revel, or what's it called? So this is a key turn. The life gain from Vault Scourge is not always going to work. Okay, this doesn't have text. Change a target of target spell abilities to Spells Guide. So I can pay an additional 2 to go down to 5. But I think I have to. I mean, the Vault Scourge is my lifeline here. That wouldn't work, right? Kind of a trick question, I guess. It looks like there is no Skullcrack coming, which could already decide the game. It's also a good deck in Legacy, but I can't really comment on if it's remotely close to being the best deck or anything. I have no idea about that. This is a beautiful, beautiful turn. The top deck Mox Opal, of course, being even sweeter. Actually, all that counts is gaining life here, so I'll make another artifact. I'm not saying the best deck, but it's a really, really good deck, and it's super underrated. So I think that Burn and Affinity are good decks to play in Modern, but if you want to win a PDQ, it might be easier to do so with Burn, because in real life events, people have just not are just not respecting Burn as a strategy, period. So I could try to poison my opponent, but it seems better to just enchant the Mox Opal here. I didn't do the math, but there isn't much my opponent can draw. Clearly a removal spell on the Mox Opal, but then I still have the plating or the 2 Nexi to kill my opponent. Yeah, Forkbolt. That's it, guys. 3-1. We did it. Yes, so this is what I was saying, Kolko. On Magic Online, everybody knows Burn exists and knows that you have to be prepared for it. They also know that it's a budget deck and that weaker players are drawn towards Burn. So on Magic Online, it's actually probably not smart to try to win a PDQ with Burn. But if you go to a PDQ, or like in the future these PDQ queues or PPTQs or whatever you want to call them, then suddenly people do not know what you're doing exactly. They will not have that many games against Burn. They might not respect you as a player, they might not respect your deck, and they might not even have sideboard cards. Now, if I'm bringing Affinity to a PDQ, did you see the yay? I hope you saw the yay. If I'm bringing Affinity to a PDQ, I know that I'm battling through Stony Silences, Creeping Corrosions, Ancient Grudges, Hercule's Recalls, whatnot. And that's why my sideboard looks like this, and why I'm playing a version that's trying to maximize the number of ways to interact with an opponent that is on Stony Silence. And if you're playing Burn, all these issues are just not there. How many people will have sideboard cards against you? I mean, if you're playing against Leyline of Sanctity, then it becomes difficult, but those people have to have it in their opening hand or mulligan down really low, and you still have a bunch of creature threats that are easy to underestimate. So it feels kind of weird playing Affinity here, but talking so much about Burn. I like Affinity as a Magic Online deck. I just love playing it. I think it's awesome. I kind of enjoy battling through the hate a little bit. I think every Affinity player does it in some way or the other. And the question is, what would I play to win a PDQ? What would I play in Modern to qualify for the Pro Tour? And that is difficult. Like, it's possible that in real life, I would shy away from Affinity and play Burn instead, for example. I probably wouldn't, but just for the sake of the argument. Go ahead and stream Burn. Yeah, next time. And then everybody stops watching. But that's, Charles Taylor, I think that the simplicity of Burn is severely overstated. It's, especially now with Eidolon, it's not an easy deck to play. And I mean that entirely honestly. So that actually gives you an edge, and it's kind of the same argument as Matt Sperling gave when he said, I'm playing Red White Burn at the Pro Tour. I'm always fighting to win against it and often losing to it. Now, and I don't think that my opponents are playing close to perfectly. Now imagine if somebody great picks up a deck like Red White Burn in Standard. And for Modern Burn or Legacy Burn, it's actually the same argument. If you get a couple of more percentage points out of playing Burn than the average Burn player, then suddenly you have a very potent weapon in your hands. So finally, Frank, you're talking about Edge Champion. This list has been is a collaboration with my brother, and we are pretty much on the same page when it comes to Thoughtcast and when it comes to Ensoul Artifact as our main ways of dealing with problems of running out of gas, dying against too much removal, and to have must answer threats and stuff against Stony Silence, although it's still an uphill battle against Stony Silence. Now, first of all, I think that Thoughtcast makes Affinity just so much more powerful. You actually want to play the 4th Memnite, especially now that you're on the Ensoul Artifact plan. You want to maximize the Mox Opal and Springleaf Drum powered starts. And with this deck, you can always make use of a Memnite. And if you draw 2, you're often even happy about it because the whole deck surrounds around cheap cards. You never have to worry about a 3-drop, which makes your man lands better, even better than they already are. And it also means that it's much less likely that you mulligan into clunky hands. Now, the Edge Champions do something that none of this deck does. But to me, they've always come close to being good, and didn't really get there. If you're playing against a Creeping Corrosion deck, they also have Liliana. If you're playing against a Stony Silence deck, 3 mana is super expensive, and you might also be facing Wrath effects. There's just so much that can go wrong. And a single Edge Champion has just never really gotten me to the point where I said, this swings the matchup in my favor. Now, I've played Affinity for years now, and I've played with Edge Champion versions, which I feel kind of rely on one of your other cards doing a good job, for especially Ravager and Plating. I mean, we can expect the Overseer to die after boarding. And I much rather want to overload all my opponent's removal spell rather than blanking all of them with a single card, because that means you have to rely on that single card to get you there, and that just doesn't happen all that often. With people just even buying time with cards like Cryptic Command or blocking with a Spell's Kite, I know for myself personally that Edge Champion hasn't given me the percentage points out of the sideboard that I would want from it. So I'm instead going to Thoughtseize my opponent's Paths to Exiles and Cryptic Commands and hopefully Stony Silences. And after boarding against Control, I'm looking at something like this 5-card package against Blue, White, Red, for example. And I still have all the Ensoul artifacts to make the Stony Silence a bit less of a problem. Now, it's rather easy to find cards to board out on the draw, because playing Steel Overseer into Electrolyze is horrible. But on the play, I just keep in the Overseers and force them to answer them immediately. And the whole strategy here really revolves around the fact that I have cheap cards that can all be cast with a single island that I can fetch with Path to Exile. So Path to Exile is kind of a part of my plan, rather than trying to somehow circumvent it with Edge Champion, which in my experience hasn't worked out as well. All right, that's it. I'm very happy that the stream worked out this time. I'm very happy that you tuned in, and I'm happy with the result. Not an exceptional one, but not something to be ashamed of either. Hope you like my list. Hope you like the stream. I will put this on YouTube. Just upload it to my channel. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/SimonGotzen. My Twitch channel is twitch.tv/SimonGotzen. And my Twitter is twitter.com/SimonGotzen. So you just have to type this, which is my name, into whatever address bar you can find. And that's pretty much it. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch. I mean, YouTube is really just the Twitch archives, but better than nothing, I guess. I also do a draft video series for mtgoacademy.com, which I'm very proud of, and that it appears bi-weekly. I have 3 draft videos up on drafting M15. You should definitely check it out if you haven't. I'll post that link in the chat. The show is called Simon Says, by the way. So that's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of it. See you next time. Bye bye.